I used to think Coral Bay was the kind of place where bad things only happened in stories, a sleepy coastal university town where the worst gossip involved who got caught swimming after curfew. That illusion shattered the night I saw my boyfriend, Aiden, kissing another girl beneath the string lights of the fall festival. The music was loud, people laughing, the smell of caramel popcorn mixing with ocean air, and there he was, hands on someone else's waist, smiling like I'd never existed. For a second, my brain refused to process what I was seeing. Then my heart caught up, pounding so hard it made my vision blur. My roommate Celine was beside me. She gasped, pressing her hand to her chest like she was shocked, but her expression didn't quite match the gesture. There was a flicker of something else in her eyes. Something that looked almost like satisfaction. "Oh my God, Ivy," she said softly, her voice dripping with sympathy that somehow didn't feel real. "You have to confront him. Right now." I shook my head, barely breathing. "I can't," I whispered, backing away into the crowd before she could grab my wrist again. I could hear her calling after me, but the music swallowed her voice. I stumbled toward the game stalls, fighting tears. My hands trembled as I picked up a dart at one of the booths. Pop! The first balloon burst. Then another. Then another. Each one felt like a tiny release valve for the chaos inside me. "You're either really angry or really competitive," said a voice behind me. I turned and saw a guy wearing a half mask painted in shimmering teal and silver, the kind sold at the entrance for costume night. He had kind eyes, or at least the part one could see did. "Both," I muttered. He laughed. "Fair answer. Though your aim's a little off." I looked at the board where half my darts had missed. "I wasn't aiming for the balloons," I said. "I was aiming at someone's ego." That made him laugh again, not mockingly, but like he actually understood. For the next few minutes, I told this masked stranger everything. About Aiden. About the matching festival tickets. About how stupid I felt for even showing up. He listened quietly, and when I was done, he said, "You know what's sad? You're blaming yourself. Like you weren't enough for him." His voice softened. "People who betray you aren't looking for something better. Just something easier. And that's not your failure, it's theirs." Something in me cracked then. Maybe because those were the exact words I needed to hear. He stepped closer, the ocean wind tugging at his mask. "You don't deserve to carry someone else's cowardice, Ivy." For the first time that night, I smiled, small but real. I don't remember who leaned in first. One second, we were just standing there, two broken people under the carnival lights, and the next, we were kissing. It was soft, unexpected, and entirely wrong. When my alarm chimed midnight, reality came rushing back. I pulled away, breathless. "Wait, your name," he said. "I can't," I whispered. "Tonight wasn't supposed to happen. Thank you for reminding me I'm still here." And I ran. The next morning, Celine barged into our dorm room, waving her phone. "Ivy, you're not gonna believe this." On the screen was a post from the Coral Bay student board, a blurry photo of me. "Looking for the girl from last night. Meet me again. Coral Bay Carnival. Signed, Theo." My stomach twisted. "Theo?" I murmured. "As in Theo Grayson? The marine biology prodigy?" Celine grinned. "The one and only. Guess your rebound was the university golden boy." I felt a weird rush of shock and dread. Theo Grayson, the same guy who'd humiliated me freshman year in a group project by calling my presentation emotionally overinflated. He couldn't be that Theo. But Celine's tone sharpened. "You're not planning to meet him again, are you? You just got burned by Aiden. Don't embarrass yourself chasing some mystery guy." Her words hit harder than they should have. And yet, as she left the room, my eyes drifted to that photo again. Something in Theo's half-hidden smile felt familiar. Real. I didn't know it then, but that photo, that kiss, would unravel every truth I thought I knew about Celine, about Aiden, and about myself. And Coral Bay would never look the same again. 3 days passed. I thought the whole festival thing would fade like a weird dream, the masked stranger, the kiss, the heartbreak. But Coral Bay has a way of keeping secrets on display. By Monday, Theo's post had gone viral on the student board. People were sharing theories about the mystery girl like it was a campus scavenger hunt. Some joked about it, others swooned. I tried to ignore the whispers echoing through the hallway whenever I walked by. Celine wasn't helping. She'd taken on this strange role, part mother hen, part gatekeeper. "You should just lay low," she said one morning, tossing her perfectly curled hair over her shoulder. "People already pity you because of Aiden. No need to look desperate by running after Theo." The way she said it, desperate, made my skin prickle. "I'm not running after anyone," I muttered, slinging my bag over my shoulder. "Good," she replied, that soft fake smile playing on her lips. "Because he's probably not even looking for you. Whoever it was, it could be anyone. He just wants attention." That should have been the end of it. But that afternoon, while restocking shelves at the campus bookstore, I looked up and saw him. Theo Grayson. Gone was the mask, but those eyes, gray-blue and sharp, like he could read between words, were unmistakable. He was holding a stack of marine science journals, but looking right at me. "Ivy, right? From Professor Chan's literature seminar." I blinked, caught off guard. Yeah. You actually remember." "Of course," he said, smiling slightly. "You quoted Rumi in your presentation about isolation." "You said," he paused, then finished softly, "the wound is the place where the light enters you." I froze. He remembered that? Theo leaned on the counter. "Weird question, but were you at the Coral Bay Festival?" "Around the dart booth." My pulse jumped. "Why?" "Because I met someone that night." His voice softened. "And she changed the way I think about a lot of things." I swallowed hard. "Oh." He studied me for a second, as if searching for recognition. "She wore a mask. Teal and silver." My throat went dry. "Say it," I told myself. "Just tell him it was you." But my mouth refused to move. Before I could find the courage, the bell over the door jingled. "Oh my God, Theo." "Celine." She breezed in, holding a coffee, acting like she'd stumbled upon us by chance. "I was hoping I'd run into you," she said, brushing invisible lint off her sleeve. "You probably don't remember me. I was at the festival too." Theo blinked, polite but uncertain. "Oh? I didn't catch your name." "Celine," she said brightly, placing her cup on the counter. "We talked for a bit near the Ferris wheel. You said you loved how the ocean sounds at night." I never forgot that. My stomach twisted. That was my conversation. Those were my words. Theo's brows furrowed slightly. "Right," he said slowly, though his tone sounded unsure. "That was you." Celine's smile never wavered. "It was." Something in me snapped. "Weird," I said, forcing a laugh. "I didn't realize you were at the festival. You told me you stayed in that night because of your migraine." Her eyes flicked toward me for half a second, just enough to register irritation before she smoothed it away. "Oh, I must have mixed up the dates." Theo looked between us, clearly sensing the tension. "Well, I should go," he said, picking up his journals. "It was nice seeing both of you." When he left, the silence between us buzzed. Celine turned, her voice a low hiss. "What was that?" I folded my arms. "I could ask you the same thing. You just stole my story." She scoffed. "Please. You're imagining things. You've been through a breakup, Ivy. Maybe don't read too much into everything." Then she walked out calm, collected, like she hadn't just rewritten my entire night. That evening, I sat in our dorm staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every tiny moment from the festival. Her gasped reaction when she saw Aiden. Her insistence that I confront him. Her text later asking if Theo seemed sweet. It all felt too calculated. I grabbed my phone and texted my friend Miles, who'd been working the lighting booth that night. "Hey, random question. Did you see Celine at the festival?" He replied within minutes. "Not until way late. Like after midnight." "Why?" My chest tightened. I'd met Theo around 10:30. Celine hadn't been there. So why did she just claim she was the girl behind the mask? I didn't have proof yet, only questions. But one thing was clear, my best friend was lying. And it was only the beginning. The next morning, I woke to the sound of Celine humming in front of the mirror. She was curling her hair, her reflection framed by strings of fairy lights we'd hung up months ago. I watched her through half-open eyes, and for a moment, I saw it, the girl everyone thought she was. Perfect posture, perfect smile, perfect life. But all I could think about was how she'd lied so effortlessly yesterday. She noticed me watching and grinned. You looked like you didn't sleep. Still brooding over Aiden? I sat up. No, just tired. Good, she said, turning back to the mirror. Because Theo and I are grabbing lunch today. We ran into each other again after I left the bookstore. My stomach dropped. You what? She smirked at my reflection. Relax. It's not like it's a date. He just wanted to catch up. Apparently, he's been trying to figure out who that mystery girl really was. Isn't that wild? I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat felt like it was lined with glass. When she left, I grabbed my jacket and practically ran out of the dorm. I didn't know where I was going, only that I needed air. The salty wind off the bay stung my face as I walked past the marina, past the seafood stalls, until I ended up at the Lighthouse Cafe. It was nearly empty, just a few students studying and an old man feeding crumbs to a seagull outside. I ordered coffee and texted Miles again. You're sure you saw Celine after midnight? Positive. Yeah. She came by the lighting booth asking who the guy in the mask was. Said she'd lost a friend in the crowd. Seemed weirdly intense. My fingers trembled around my cup. She knew about Theo before she ever claimed to be the mystery girl. That meant she'd planned this. Later that afternoon, when I got back to the dorm, her side of the room was a battlefield of clothes and makeup. She was getting ready, lipstick, perfume, the whole performance. You're going like that to lunch? I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. She shrugged, spraying perfume. What? It's just a meal. I wanted to scream that she was lying, that she'd stolen my story, that she was sitting across from him because she wanted to erase me from it. Instead, I just said, you look nice, and left before she could see the tears threatening to spill. By evening, I was back at the bookstore, helping close up. My coworker, Leah, was flipping through receipts while I half-heartedly arranged display shelves. You look like someone stole your soul, she said without looking up. Close enough. I told her everything about the festival, the kiss, the mask, the lies. Leah didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she leaned against the counter and said, So your best friend lied about being there, and now she's hanging out with the guy who kissed you? Pretty much. She frowned. That's not impulsive lying. That's strategic. Strategic? Yeah. She didn't just steal your story, she's rewriting it. That's a movie make when you want someone erased. Her words sank into me like stones. Erased. The next morning, Coral Bay's gossip page exploded again, this time with pictures. Celine and Theo, sitting together at the Lighthouse Cafe. She was leaning across. When I got to class later, whispers followed me like shadows. Wasn't Ivy the one who said she met Theo? Guess not. Maybe she made it up. By lunch, I couldn't take it anymore. I found Theo in the campus courtyard, sketching fish anatomy diagrams in his notebook. Hey, I said. He looked up surprised. Ivy. Hi. I hesitated. So, you and Celine? He sighed, closing the notebook. Honestly? I'm confused. She insists we met at the festival. But the details don't line up. Still, I didn't want to call her a liar. What details? He frowned. She said we talked about her parents' divorce. But I remember talking about someone whose boyfriend cheated that night. My heart skipped. That's because it was me. His eyes met mine, searching. I saw it then, the flicker of realization. The way his lips parted slightly, like he'd just recognized a melody he hadn't heard in years. Before either of us could say another word, a voice cut through the air. There you are, Theo. Celine. She approached like she owned the courtyard, linking her arm through his as if she'd always belonged there. Hope I'm not interrupting, she said sweetly, though her eyes dared me to speak. I forced a smile. Not at all. But inside, I was shaking. Because for the first time, I realized this wasn't jealousy. It was a game. And I had no idea what the rules were or how far Celine was willing to go to win. That night, I couldn't sleep. Celine's laugh echoed in my head, the one she used when she was performing for someone. For Theo. For me. For whoever she needed to believe her version of reality. I scrolled through the gossip feed again. Photos of her and Theo flooded every corner of Coral Bay's online world. Campus power couple, one comment said. Another, guess Ivy was lying all along. I threw my phone aside, staring up at the ceiling until the room blurred into darkness. I'd been painted as the liar. And she'd done it with a single smile. The next morning, I went to class, but my mind wasn't in it. I kept thinking about every conversation Celine and I had had in the past month, the way she'd pushed me to go to the festival even though I'd planned to stay home with Aiden, who'd been sick. She'd said, "Don't waste your weekend on a guy who's coughing in bed. Go live a little." At the time, it sounded like encouragement. Now it sounded like strategy. Between lectures, I messaged my ex, Aiden. The last thing I wanted was to talk to him again, but I needed answers. "Ivy, can we talk? It's important." Aiden, sure. Coffee shop at the marina? He arrived 20 minutes late, as usual. Same jacket, same smug half-smile that used to make me melt, but now just made my stomach turn. "So," he said, sitting across from me. "What's this about?" "About the festival," I said. "You told me you were sick that night. Then I saw you there. With her." Aiden looked down at his coffee. "Yeah, about that." "Just tell me the truth," I said quietly. He rubbed his jaw, hesitating. "Look, I didn't plan to go. Celine came by earlier that day. Said you were thinking about breaking up with me. That you were bored. She said you were planning to meet someone else at the festival." My chest tightened. "She told you that?" He nodded. "Yeah. I was pissed, so I figured I'd show up and, I don't know, beat you to it." I stared at him, unable to speak. She'd planted that idea and he'd acted on it. "So you cheated," I said flatly, "because she told you I was going to?" He winced. "I didn't mean to hurt you," Celine said. I held up my hand. "Stop. I don't want to hear what Celine said anymore." The realization hit like ice water. My heartbreak hadn't been an accident. It had been orchestrated. After he left, I sat there for a long time, watching the sunlight ripple on the water outside the cafe window. My coffee had gone cold, but I didn't care. Every puzzle piece clicked into place, every encouraging word, every nudge, every perfect little push she'd given me. Celine hadn't been supporting me. She'd been directing me. When I got back to the dorm, she was sitting cross-legged on her bed, typing something on her laptop. She looked up and smiled like nothing had happened. "Hey," she said, "Theo's coming by in a bit. Hope you don't mind if we hang here before our film studies class." My hands clenched around my bag. "Actually, I do mind." She tilted her head. "Why?" "It's just classwork." I took a step closer. "You lied, Celine. About the festival. About Theo. About Aiden." Her expression barely changed, but I saw it, the flicker of annoyance before her mask slid back on. "Ivy, I think you need to calm down," she said softly. "You're still processing the breakup, and I get that. But making up stories about me isn't helping." I laughed, sharp, bitter, tired. "You really think I'm that stupid?" She stood up slowly, closing the laptop. "Tell me something," I said, stepping closer. "Why did you tell Aiden I was going to dump him?" Her eyes widened, just slightly. "Excuse me?" "He told me," I said. "Everything. You went to him before the festival." Silence stretched between us like a held breath. Then her smile returned, smaller this time. "You're really going to take his word for it? You don't even deny it." "I don't have to," she said, grabbing her bag. "Because when this all blows over, you'll realize how paranoid you sound. And then you'll come running back, like you always do." Then she left, calm as ever. That night, I couldn't stop shaking. My best friend had turned my entire life into her stage play. I opened my notes app and began typing everything I knew, dates, messages, moments. A timeline of manipulation. If she was rewriting my story, then I'd start documenting the real one. And I'd make sure no one ever believed her version again. The next few days were a blur of pretending. Pretending to study. Pretending to sleep. Pretending that the sight of Celine and Theo laughing across the quad didn't feel like glass splintering under my ribs. But something had shifted inside me. I wasn't going to sit quietly while she rewrote my story. I had proof, Aiden's confession, Miles's messages, and my own memory. Now I just needed to connect the dots. On Wednesday afternoon, I went to the student library where Theo usually studied. Sure enough, he was there, hunched over his laptop, headphones on, completely unaware of the chaos surrounding his name online. I stood there for a full minute before I finally said, "Can we talk?" He pulled off his headphones. I sat across from him, my heart racing. "You're being lied to." He frowned slightly, closing his laptop. "Okay. Celine isn't the girl you met at the festival," I said quietly. "I am." He blinked, processing. "Ivy, this again." "No, listen. You told me about your parents. About your mom cheating on your dad. You said your dad still blames himself." Theo froze. His eyes widened, just slightly, and I knew I'd hit the nerve. "She couldn't have known that," I said, leaning forward. "Because you told me. At the dart booth. Before midnight. Celine didn't even arrive until after 1. I have a friend who saw her." He rubbed his temples, the weight of realization settling in. I knew something felt off. She got details wrong. The way she described that night, it didn't match what I remembered. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. "Here," I said, opening my notes app, "look at this." I showed him everything, the timeline, the messages from Miles confirming when Celine arrived, the texts Aiden had sent admitting she told him I was planning to break up with him. Theo scrolled through them, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief to anger. "She manipulated both of us," he said finally. "Yeah," I whispered. "And she's still doing it." He sat back, staring at the table. "She told me you were obsessed with me. That you made up stories to get attention." I laughed bitterly. "Of course she did. That's how she works. She discredits you before you can defend yourself." Theo looked up, his jaw tightening. "She's been messaging me constantly. Showing up by coincidence." I thought she was just trying to be friendly, but now he stopped, shaking his head. "I feel like an idiot." "You're not," I said softly. "She's good at what she does." We sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, waves crashed faintly against the cliffs, the sound filtering through the open window. Finally, he said, "I need to hear it from her. If she's lying, I want to give her the chance to admit it." My stomach clenched. "Theo, she won't confess. She'll twist it until you question your own memory." He gave a sad smile. "Then I'll record it." That night, he texted me. "Theo, she agreed to meet at the cafe tomorrow. I'll handle it." I didn't sleep. Every hour felt like waiting for a bomb to go off. The next afternoon, I sat 2 tables away at the Lighthouse Cafe, pretending to read. My heart hammered as Celine walked in, hair perfect, voice soft as she greeted Theo. "Hey," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "You sounded upset on the phone." He nodded. "Yeah, I just wanted to clear something up." She tilted her head. "About what?" "The festival. About who I met that night." Her smile didn't even flicker. "We've talked about this." "It was me." Theo pressed. "Then tell me what we talked about." She hesitated, just long enough for me to see it, the break in her armor. Then she smiled again. "You said you liked my costume." "We talked about trust. About your family, maybe?" Theo's voice stayed calm. "What about my family?" She swallowed. "Your dad cheated on your mom, right?" I saw him go still. "No," he said evenly. "It was the other way around." For the first time, Celine's face faltered. "Oh," she said weakly, "I must have remembered wrong." Theo's phone was recording, lying face down beside his cup. When their conversation ended, she walked out looking unsettled, like she knew something had gone wrong but couldn't pinpoint what. Theo caught my eye through the window and nodded once, a small, silent confirmation. We finally had proof. That night, he sent me the recording. I played it over and over until the words blurred together, until I could barely feel the satisfaction through the exhaustion. But the relief was short-lived. Because the next morning, Coral Bay's gossip board exploded again. Only this time, the rumors weren't about Celine. They were about me. Ivy Harper manipulates people to get sympathy. She's jealous of Celine's success. Theo's just her new obsession. Celine had beaten me to the punch. She'd started her own campaign, and this time, she wasn't just stealing my story. She was trying to destroy my name. By the time the rumors spread across Coral Bay University, it felt like I couldn't take a single step without hearing my name whispered like a curse. "Ivy Harper? Oh, she's the one who made up that story about Theo. She's obsessed." Poor Celine. Every word burned, not because I believed them, but because they did. Celine was winning again. Theo and I stayed low for a few days, trading whispers over late-night coffee and library corners. He wanted to release the recording immediately, post it online with captions, screenshots, the whole thing. But I shook my head. That's exactly what she wants. A public war makes both of us look guilty. We need her to expose herself. He stared at me for a long time, then nodded slowly. Then we wait. That night, I texted Miles and Leah, asking them to meet me at the bookstore after closing. They'd both seen how badly things had spiraled, and I needed their help. When they arrived, I played the recording of Celine mixing up Theo's story. Leah's eyes widened. You're kidding. That's her voice. Clear as daylight, I said. But it's not enough to make people believe me. She's already built her narrative. Miles frowned. So what's the plan? I'm going to confront her, I said, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. And this time, I'll record it myself. They exchanged worried looks. Are you sure? Leah asked. Celine's unpredictable. I smiled faintly. Exactly. All I have to do is give her a reason to lose control. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. 3 days later, I was alone at the bookstore, rearranging displays, when the doorbell chimed. Celine walked in. Her hair was tied back this time, her smile brittle. We need to talk, she said. I slipped my hand into my pocket, hitting record on my phone. About what? She moved closer. You know exactly what. You're spreading lies about me. You and Theo. People are starting to ask questions. I kept my voice calm. We're not spreading anything. We're just telling the truth. Her jaw tightened. The truth? The truth is that you can't stand not being the center of attention. You've always needed to be the victim, Ivy. I've spent years cleaning up your messes. I stared at her. Like when you told Aiden I was planning to dump him? That hit home. She froze for half a second, then scoffed. Oh, please. He was going to cheat eventually. I just made sure you saw it before you wasted more time. My heart pounded, but I kept my tone level. You planned it, didn't you? You told him to show up that night. She didn't deny it. You needed a wake-up call. You were so smug, so sure everyone loved you. I wanted you to feel what it was like to lose something. I swallowed hard. And Theo? Did you want me to lose him too? Her expression twisted. You think you deserved him? You think you can just stumble into someone's life and take everything? You've had everything handed to you, friends, love, attention. I had to fight for every scrap of it. Her voice broke, rising higher, trembling with something between rage and grief. You don't get it, she said, tears forming, but her words cutting like knives. When people looked at you, they saw someone worth rooting for. When they looked at me, they saw you, your friend, your sidekick. Do you know what that does to someone? For a moment, the mask slipped completely. I saw the raw, ugly jealousy that had been eating her alive for years. Celine, I whispered, you could have told me. She laughed, bitter, hollow. And let you pity me? I'd rather be hated. I took a deep breath. Then congratulations. You got what you wanted. Before she could respond, the back door creaked open. Theo stepped in, his phone raised, camera recording. Behind him, Miles and Leah appeared, their faces pale but determined. Celine turned, stunned. What? Theo's voice was quiet but steady. This time, you don't get to rewrite the story. She went still. Realization flickered across her face, then rage. You set me up. No, I said softly. You set yourself up. The silence that followed felt heavy enough to break the air itself. Then Celine grabbed her bag and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. We all stood there frozen, the echoes fading. I finally exhaled. Did we get it? Theo nodded, showing me his phone. Every word. Leah pressed a shaking hand to her chest. I can't believe she admitted it. Miles looked at me. What are you going to do with it? I stared at the door where Celine had disappeared. Nothing, not yet. The truth doesn't need to be shouted. It just needs to be heard by the right people. And for the first time in weeks, I felt the smallest flicker of peace. Because the war was almost over. By morning, the recording had already changed everything. Theo sent it to the Dean of Student Affairs, not to ruin Celine, but to protect us, to have something official on record before she spun another lie. The dean listened, called us both in, and said the words that made my knees weak. "You were telling the truth." Just like that, the tide shifted. By noon, the whispers around campus had a different flavor. Not pity. Not gossip. Curiosity. Doubt. People started asking questions about what really happened, about who Celine really was. That evening, Miles texted me. "She's leaving campus." Packed her things. Rooms empty. I just stared at the message, unsure what I was supposed to feel. Relief? Sadness? Closure? Maybe a bit of everything. When I walked back into the dorm that night, her side of the room was stripped bare, no perfume bottles, no silver mirror, no framed photos. Just a faint trace of her floral shampoo lingering in the air like a ghost. For a long time, I stood in the doorway staring at the empty bed. We'd built so many late-night memories there, laughter, secrets, music playing softly while we studied. Now all of it felt like evidence in a case I'd finally solved. I sat on my bed and whispered to no one, "I hope you find peace, Celine." Because even after everything, part of me still pitied her. She'd wanted love so badly that she destroyed the only real friendship she ever had. A week later, I met Theo at the cliffs overlooking Coral Bay. The wind was cold but clean, carrying the salt of the ocean. He handed me a cup of coffee, both our fingers brushing. "So," he said quietly, "how does it feel to have the truth out there?" I smiled faintly. "Lighter. Not fixed, not perfect, just lighter." He nodded. "I listened to that recording again last night. She wasn't just jealous of you. She was drowning in her own reflection." "Yeah," I said softly. "But I let her drag me down too. I stopped trusting everyone, even myself." Theo turned toward me, his eyes steady. "Then maybe it's time to start again." We stood there in silence for a while, watching the water crash against the rocks below. For the first time since Halloween night, the sound didn't sting. Later, we walked down to the boardwalk. The festival banners were still fluttering in the wind from last month's event, faded, frayed at the edges. I stopped at the same dart booth where it had all started. "Do you remember this?" he asked, smiling. "Vividly," I said. "You said something about how people who betray aren't looking for something better, just something easier." He looked at me, eyes warm. Still true. I picked up a dart, lined up my shot, and threw. It hit dead center, bursting the red balloon with a satisfying pop. "Nice aim," he said. I laughed. "Guess I finally learned what I'm aiming for." We spent the rest of the evening walking through the quiet stalls, talking about everything and nothing: books, movies, plans for the future. It wasn't about romantic tension or dramatic moments anymore. It was about understanding two people who'd both been lied to, choosing honesty instead. The next week, Leah and Miles came by the bookstore. We decided not to post the recordings publicly, just to keep them as proof in case Celine ever resurfaced with new lies. But the truth had already spread naturally, whispered through the right people in quiet, steady waves. When Leah left, she turned back and said, "You know what I love most about how you handled this? You didn't burn her down. You just stood in the light until her shadow disappeared." That stuck with me. Over the following weeks, Coral Bay settled back into its rhythm: coffee dates, lectures, ocean breezes. But I was different now. Wiser, maybe. Sharper. I'd learned that sometimes the villains don't wear fangs or dark cloaks, they smile, hold your hand, and tell you they're protecting you. And I'd also learned that the only thing stronger than manipulation is quiet truth. One evening, I got a message request on my phone. It was from Celine. "Celine, I'm getting help. I'm sorry. You don't have to forgive me, but I wanted you to know." I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed 2 words and hit send. "Ivy, I hope so." I didn't block her. I didn't reply again. Some stories don't need dramatic endings, just distance and growth. A month later, the winter festival lit up Coral Bay again. Lanterns reflected off the water, laughter spilling from every corner of the square. Theo reached for my hand as the fireworks began, the colors painting his face in flickering gold and blue. He leaned close and whispered, "You know, if none of that happened, we might never have found each other." I smiled, watching the sparks rise into the night. Sometimes the storm clears what shouldn't have been standing. The fireworks roared above us, their reflections rippling across the dark waves. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't haunted by what I'd lost, only grateful for what I'd found. Because the truth, once revealed, doesn't just free you. It rebuilds you.